hoping that Jay Bilas would give us a couple minutes today, and he squeezed us in, which is always a pleasure, and he gets a chance to say hello. Jay, welcome. Good to talk again. How are you today? Okay, pal?
I'm doing great, Chris. How are you?
Always a pleasure. Thanks for a few here. Let's do an overview first. It seems like I haven't followed it as carefully as I normally, well, not normally, as I sometimes do. I'm into it now. It took me a while. How many teams? It seems like there's a lot more balance. How many teams without miracle runs and having all sorts of wacky things happen? You want to say there are 15 teams that go win a championship? Are there more? Big picture, how many teams in your eyes have the ability, if things are just normal, to win a title?
Maybe 8.
Oh, 8.
7.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's 15. I mean, you know, I think every year we wind up saying it's wide open because it feels that way. This year's a little bit different because we don't have as many teams that feel as dominant, even though, I mean, at some point we've got to say Virginia's dominant. I mean, they went through the ACC 17-1. What does dominance look like if they're not dominant? And they're just not as powerful as Kentucky was, you know, in 2015. And that year when we had Kentucky, Duke, Wisconsin, you know, you had teams where you thought if those teams would get to the Final Four, those are monumental upsets. We don't have. I'm trying to think of the right way to put it. Like, I think not anybody can win, let's put it that way, but just about everybody can lose. So we've got more teams that can lose to a wider swath of teams than before, or than in years past. But there really aren't that many teams you're going, okay, well, there are 20 teams that could win it. You'd have to have some incredible upsets for that many teams to legitimately have any kind of shot.
No, you hit it right in the head. Everybody can get picked off, but, you know, when you get right down to it, it's 7 or 8. Let's start with Virginia. We know they play great defense, and we know, you know, the pace of the game, it fits right into what Tony Bennett wants to do. Now, when they have lost, they never score. When they have to get some big baskets, they play 6 games. There's going to be 3 or 4 of those games to win the whole thing. They're going to have to score, and somebody's going to have to make some shots for them to win that close game. They're going to play 1 or 2 of them. Are they capable, unlike other years, in your eyes, are they capable of doing that?
Yes, they are. They've got very good guards. They got a kid from Indianapolis named Kyle Guy, who he was the dude that last year as a freshman had the man bun. And he's legit. He can really score. If he were playing at Duke or North Carolina, we'd be talking about him nonstop. And then they I think he's from the New York area, named Ty Jerome, who's a really good player. He's a little bit bigger, handles it like a point guard, can really shoot it, and has deep range. And they've got a freshman coming off the bench named DeAndre Hunter, who's going to be a star. He's not a star yet, but he's going to be one. So they're legit. It's just they don't look the part, and they don't. Maybe it's because in warmups you're looking down there going, "Come on, man, we can beat those guys." But then at the end of the game, they've hammered you, and their margin of victory, Chris, is bigger than people realize. Like they haven't had a bunch of, in years past. You're kind of going, they don't have a lot of margin for error. But their margin of victory is so big, they got plenty of margin for error this year. They're like anybody else. They're like Villanova or all those teams. If you shoot it bad and offensively you're struggling, then, yeah, anybody can get beat in that scenario. But they haven't had many off nights, and I tend to think that's not a coincidence.
All right, so you think Virginia's legit and has an opportunity offensively. All right, the 3 teams that are something fun that don't normally play in this tournament that have been ranked in the top 20 all year and finished, top 2 or 3 in their conference, which one out of the 3 that I'm going to name you has the best chance to make a little noise? Auburn, Clemson, or Texas Tech?
Probably Auburn. Clemson has had an injury. They had a kid named Dante Grantham who was I thought their best player, and certainly their most versatile player. Senior, 6'8", really versatile and good player, got injured. He's out for the season with a knee injury. So they've still been very good, but they haven't been as good, and I think that takes them out of anything beyond the Sweet 16 in my judgment. I think it's probably Chris Auburn of those teams. It might have been Texas Tech, if not. But Keenan Evans is injured, their best player.
Right.
He's got some kind of turf toe thing, and he's actually been wearing 2 different size shoes, and he won a bunch of games. Like, it's probably been 5 games or so where he's not been close to what he was before, and the results have reflected it. I tend to think that Auburn's the best team of that crew, but they've got a kid hurt too. A kid named Anthony McLemore, who was a shot blocker for him. He's out for the year with like one of those Gordon Hayward type injuries. With a dislocated ankle, but they're tough. They're They've got really good guards. They shoot the three. They defend. They've got undersized at just about every spot. They fight you, and they're kind of like Bruce Pearl's old Tennessee teams in a way that. He had one team that came within a game of the Final Four when they lost to Michigan State in the Elite Eight, and I think they're the best team of that crew.
All right, good one. All right, out of the one-bid leagues, the Murray States, the Middle Tennessees, the Vermonts, who almost beat Kentucky, those kinds of teams, which one in your eyes, and you did the Fairfield-Iona game last night, so Jay knows, folks. Jay did that Fairfield-Iona game. That tells you what you need to know about Jay's love of basketball. Out of all those teams, which one could win 2 games in the tournament?
I'll give you 2 of them. You mentioned one is in Middle Tennessee and really I think what you have to look for, you can always have one of these crazy upsets where you have a 15 beat a 2, like when Hampton beat Iowa State, where Iowa.
I think we lost Jay. We'll see if we can get him back aboard. If Eddie can find that in the next minute or so, as we have lost Jay here, and we'll see if we get him back. So he likes Middle Tennessee State, but right now, by the way, they're 16-2. They're going to win their conference tournament. Maybe they get a bid anyway at 24-6. We'll see about that. Vermont is 15-1. They're 26-6. So we see. As far as Vermont is concerned, of where we stand, we'll keep an eye on that. All right, Jay, you mentioned Middle Tennessee State. Go through them again and go through these other 2 teams, the one-bid teams with the 2 wins. Go ahead.
Well, sorry about that. What I was going to say is, to me, what you look for are teams, smaller conference teams that have major conference talent. And Middle Tennessee has, they've got Nick King, who transferred in from Memphis. And I'll give you another team that I think is really good. They're from the Mountain West, which doesn't sound like a little conference, but it's a one-bid league now. And it's Nevada. Eric Musselman is the coach.
Yeah, he's a good coach.
They've got major conference players. They've got a kid named Caleb Martin who transferred in from NC State. He and his twin brother Cody are really good players. And they've got a kid named Kendall Stevens who transferred in from Purdue, who's already hit 113 threes even before their conference tournament. They're legit. And then they got a kid named Jordan Caroline who can really play. Good rebounder, tough as nails. They're very, very good. They could win a couple games. I don't know that I see sort of a VCU or a George Mason out there, but the truth is I don't know that anybody saw VCU or George Mason when they pulled off what they pulled off. So it's kind of whoever does something like that is going to have to play better in the tournament than they played during the regular season, which both George Mason and VCU did.
Interesting, and you're right about Nevada beat Rhode Island, and I spoke to Tom Moore about Nevada. He loved them too, so that's a good one you came up with. All right, how about the big schools, the big-time teams with a lot of those freshmen, the one-and-done kind of players, Kentucky, Duke, teams like that. You got to grow up in a hurry sometimes. They played 30 games, though, so they're not really freshmen anymore. Is Duke the team that I look at with the younger talent that has the best chance to win the whole thing, as usual, or not?
Yeah, by far. Duke's got the most talent in the country. It's just really, as you mentioned, really young talent. They're starting to play a lot better. Over the last probably 10, 12 games, they've played much better defense, and their numbers are trending up. And I think the last team to score 70 points on them was North Carolina on February 8th. So it's been about a month since they've given up even 70, and they're playing exclusively zone, which I think has really helped. Their big guys are staying near the basket. They're not getting taken advantage of in ball screen situations, get spread out. So they're legit. They're good enough to win it, but with the youth they have, they could certainly have a situation like last year where they get beat by somebody like South Carolina. That can happen. I don't think Kentucky is anywhere near as good as they've been. Their talent just isn't the same. It's good talent. It's not great. I think the other team is Arizona. Arizona has underperformed relative to the amount of talent they have. I know they've had some ups and downs and injuries and suspensions and all that stuff, but they're healthy now, and I think they're probably the most overlooked, legit championship contender out there. And
he's due to get to a Final Four too. He hasn't done that yet, and he's been close. All right, will the 10-day layoff hurt the Big Ten?
That can cut both ways. That's a good question. I think whatever happens, the tournament's going to get blamed, the Big Ten tournament. So if praised. So if a couple teams wind up going to the Final Four and a Big Ten team wins it, whether it's Purdue or Michigan State, then everybody can say Jim Delaney's a genius. That gave him some extra time to rest, and the other coaches are going to complain about the unfair advantage that the Big Ten teams had. And if they lose, everybody's going to say, well, they had too much time. They're stale. and they didn't get a chance to compete, and then and they got beat because of that. So I see it cutting both ways. I've seen it where, really the last team to win its conference tournament, win the championship, I think might have been Louisville in 2013. Winning your conference championship isn't the be all and end all anymore. You can get beat up pretty good in these league tournaments and go limping into the tournament sometimes.
Yeah, very tricky. Good thought. Which coach, Jay Bilas, we'll let him go here in a minute or two. Which coach, in your eyes, because of expectations, he's due, alumni pressure, tough market, you name it, which coach going into this tournament's got the most pressure on him?
Wow, that's a good question. I haven't thought about it that way. I would say probably, even though, it's not that they're insecure in their jobs or anything, but I would say Matt Painter at Purdue is past due for a Final Four, kind of like Mark Few was last year. You already mentioned Sean Miller, who's never been to one, and I think he's due as well. And I tend to think that Chris Mack at Xavier is looking at a Final Four team. And at Xavier, how many opportunities do you have to say, hey, I got my best team, I got my best chance to get to a Final Four? They've knocked on the door in the Elite Eight before.
Yep.
But this is probably their best chance. There are a number of teams out there that this is the best chance they've ever had. Cincinnati's another one. This is the best chance Cincinnati's had in the modern era since Oscar Robertson was there to win a national championship.
All right, which team on the bubble that does not get in Sunday will have the biggest and best gripe?
That's a good one. Probably a place like Syracuse or Alabama or Nebraska, maybe even Oklahoma State. I don't think, though, Chris, that the gripes are going to be as profound this year. Like, I think it was 2 years ago, I was pretty, I got my undies all in a bunch over Monmouth not getting in, because in a year where you had, Louisville was ineligible, SMU was ineligible, and Monmouth won 19 road games.
And they didn't make it. Yeah, I remember that. You got upset.
Yeah, they didn't make it, and you're like, well, are you kidding? Like, quit telling us go challenge yourself if you're not going to reward a smaller conference team for doing all that they did. It'll come down to teams that have proven they can beat good teams. Like, all those teams have proven they can lose. So I don't really care who they lost to. What I care more about is, have you proven you can beat somebody good? And if you haven't proven that, I think you should be in the back of the line.
All right, TBS, last thing, Jay. TBS is going to televise. They're going to do a little differently now on Sunday. Whether they're going to do it to hurt you guys at ESPN, who knows? 2 hours. We'll see how they do these brackets, if they get them out quicker. But they're going to announce the 68 teams before they're going to announce the brackets. I prefer going bracket to bracket. Now, I'm used to that, so maybe let me see it this way and I'll change. But we all are used to the bracket to bracket, and see the teams get a little nervous as you get to that third bracket and not in the tournament yet. This year, they're going to do it a little differently. 68 first, and then we're going to bracket it from that standpoint. You're a TV guy who's been following this for a long time. What's your take on that for a sec?
I don't know. It's interesting. I just heard that this morning, that they're doing that. I think it's fine. It's not going to bother me one way or the other. I mean, it's kind of like recruiting. A lot of my friends like to talk about recruiting, and I'm like, look, I don't even get into that. They're all going to decide, at a certain date. I'll just wait till then and save myself the aggravation. So, I mean, I'll have the bracket by whatever 7 o'clock on Sunday night. I'm not gonna get too worried about it at 5 o'clock. But hopefully it'll be good. Like, there are a bunch of great people over there. I've worked with a lot of them before, so I'll be watching like everybody else. And then as soon as their show's over, we'll go through the whole thing, and so we'll have plenty of basketball to talk about.
Now you've had it both ways, Jay. You were in a scenario where you worked ESPN, which is where you need to be during the season, because you get all the good games and you're the number one guy, so you're getting what you want, and you can call and you get every big regular season game, and it's the best. But then you give up the games in the tournament. Now, in the old days, you got both. You don't get that anymore. Are you okay with that? Is it frustrating for a guy like Jay Bilas, who's following the sport from November 1st through March 10th, and then the big games, he doesn't get a chance to call? How's that work?
Yeah, I mean, would I rather be at every game? I would absolutely rather be there. I love the games, and would I rather call every game? I'd love to call every game. You can't do that. But I get it. I mean, I'm an ESPN guy. Years ago when they made the trade and we could do both for a little while, it was fantastic. But but I'm not at home, pining for it. I got plenty to do. But would I rather do both? You're darn right. Then I'd rather go do the NBA Finals, and I'd love to do the World Series if they'd let me. I certainly miss it, and I miss the free jackets. That was the best thing. You didn't even have to have a credential. You got that CBS jacket. You go anywhere you wanted. It was awesome.
Jay, it's good to talk to you. I know you're busy today. Thanks for a good 10 minutes. Appreciate it very much, as usual.
Thank you, Chris. Great to be with you.
Okay, Jay Bilas, there's some thoughts. Now, here is R. And he is, listen, I make fun of him like he makes fun. By the way, when you give me the Georgia Tech BC score today, let's be fair and give me what's going on in the Indian Wells tennis tournament out there in Palm Springs when Federer is the top seed playing.
Well, I'm not going to be fair because it's my show, my rules. So,
more people care about Roger Federer than Georgia Tech.
We've heard that a million times.
Well, you don't think that's the case?
Well, what happens if let me ask you this. What happens if you were betting the game today? I think plenty of people would care if they had money on Boston College and Georgia Tech, don't you?
Well, you must have had money on it for you to bring that up.
I didn't.
You bet that game,
no,
Steve?
No, of course I didn't. But my point is there are people out there that do. And so, therefore, I'm updating. And, by the way, I mentioned it once. I don't even think I mentioned it after that.
Oh, you did? Okay. Anyway, your thoughts. You had Seth Davis, and that's an excellent spot. Good job on your point. And I saw him walking out, and he said they're not going to pay the players, so you get off that. They're not going to get involved in that. I heard him. You asked the question, and I heard his answer. But I'm more wrapped up on you right now as far as the conference scenario is concerned. First off, congrats on Iona.
I didn't go to the school, but
you love that Iona team.
I root for them because they're from my neighborhood.
Who gets those kind of kids that everybody else shies away from a little bit, and he takes a chance, and those kids play well for him. So that's number one.
You must have gotten information from somebody to spit that out.
Well, I mean,
like you would know who the hell's going anywhere.
Historically, I think they might take a chance or two compared to say somebody else. I think you'd agree with that. Historically. I'm not sure about this particular team, but historically.
Well, what are you implying?
I'm not bad kids? No, I'm not implying that at all. But, Iona does, they do have a lot of... I'm not implying anything. I just threw it out there. You know there's some truth to that, so I don't know why you're fighting me on this. I mean...
Actually, I'm a little confused.
Bottom line is, good job for Iona. That's the bottom line.
Well, look, Tim Cluse is a great coach. I mean, this was not a great team. They were like the 4 seed. I know they got a break. The top 3 seeds lost in the tournament.
It might tell you that this is a lousy league.
Yeah, well, it could. But, I mean, look, he's basically taking control of that thing. He owns that tournament. He owns that league.
He owns it. How many times has he been in the NCAA tournament now? About 5-6 times?
Yeah, I mean, he's won 3 in a row.
No, he hasn't won a game in a tournament yet, and he's had terrible losses. I mean, the BYU game is going down.
That was brutal.
I mean, he's had some bad losses.
And they got in there as an at-large that year. They didn't even win the...
And they had a 28-point lead in the second half and lost. Yeah. So they have been in some bad... But they have made the NCAA.
Then he's gotten to 6 straight finals. It's pretty good. What's your thoughts on Cleveland State tonight with 12 wins playing for an automatic bid?
You made a big deal about that to me today. Cleveland State. Now, who are they playing in this Horizon Conference, Horizon Championship game?
They're playing Wright State, the 2 seed.
And is the game at Wright State or is it a neutral
it's
site?
A neutral site. That's the problem.
Did they play? They played in the regular season. Who won the game?
I honestly don't know.
We'll have Eddie look it up. Eddie doesn't. Get him off the sort of things that he watches on that website and get him off it.
They're playing in Detroit, I believe.
So they will steal
They split the series.
Split the series. They will take a bid away from somebody right now.
Well, not really because that's only a 1 bid league.
Oh, that's
anyway.
true too. You're right. They won't take a bid
But still,
away.
It's just bizarre that you got a team.
No, you're right. You hit it right. Wright State's not going. Who won the regular season in that league?
Northern Kentucky, and they got picked off.
So you're right. So that's not a big deal. Is there right now in your eyes who's the 69th team in the tournament? Penn State, Nebraska, Arizona State.
I think Arizona State's probably going to get in. If they lose to Colorado tomorrow, they could be in some trouble. But right now, they're probably going to get in.
They beat Kansas and Texas
Tech. Yeah, I know it's huge early in the year, and they finished behind Colorado in the standings. They've really not had a great second half. I mean, I think basically you could take your pick. I mean, I think Nebraska and Penn State are sort of further back. Syracuse is right around that last 4 or 5, that type of thing.
Who is Syracuse outside of beating Clemson, which they're all excited about at home? Beating Clemson at home is a big deal, 55-52. Who is Syracuse beating this year that I'm supposed to get all wacky about to get them in the NCAA tournament? You got a game for me for Syracuse?
I could look it up.
I know Syracuse is always that team that, when they get in a bubble, there's always great debate about Syracuse, and some years they make it, and they shouldn't, and they go out there and win 4 or 5 games in a row. But do I know they play in that conference.
Miami and Louisville.
They beat Miami and Louisville.
Yeah, they beat Louisville on the road. They beat both those teams on the road, which is actually, as far as the quadrant one thing, that's a big deal.
Okay, so they beat Louisville and they won at Miami.
Yeah, right, but they're under 500 in the conference, but it is the ACC.
And they also beat they beat Clemson the other day. So they got 3 wins of note.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I mean, whatever the other wins in the conference are not that, and they lost out of conference to St. Bonaventure at the Carrier Dome. And then they're going to the tournament, but probably. Yeah,
St. Bonaventure's going
going to the
tournament.
tournament.
No, they're going to the tournament, Steve. They're second in the league. They just beat St. Louis to clinch that second seed. They're going to the tournament. They beat Rhode Island. They're going to. I know you don't want to put them in. They're going to take a second team.
I think they're going to get in.
They're going to take a second team. So right now, you think Syracuse might be the 69th team?
Well, I mean, close. I mean, you've got Louisville's in that category, Marquette's in that category, Oklahoma State's probably in that category. Those type of teams.
Despite beating Kansas by about 100 points this past weekend.
Yeah, if you look at Oklahoma State, I actually think they deserve it. If you break down their schedule, they've actually have no bad losses. If you really care, if you want to take a look at it.
Well, give me their wins. I'm more wrapped up in that. They beat Kansas at home. They have any good wins on the road, Oklahoma State?
Yeah, hold on. I'm going to pull it up for you. Now, remember, they finished under 500 in the conference, and they're 18-13.
All right, so and don't forget, Steve and I at 5 o'clock on Sunday night, the selection show right here on your favorite little Sirius XM station. You may continue.
Yes, thank you. Oh, they lost to Wichita State out of conference, and they lost to Texas A&M out of conference. This is, at the time Texas A&M was ranked,
All right, that's not terrible.
But really, here's their other losses. West Virginia by 6. Oklahoma, when Oklahoma was great, they got beat up pretty good. Kansas State, which is probably going to the tournament.
Oh, absolutely.
Baylor, which is probably going to the tournament. Texas Tech, they're going. Arkansas, TCU is going. So they don't have any bad losses. Their wins, Texas Tech, Kansas, they beat up on them this past week, which is good.
Texas Tech at home.
At West Virginia, which is impressive.
That's a nice win.
They lost by five at Kansas the first time around. So, I think but they're, because of their record, they're sort of on the
No, it's Oklahoma State's a key.
But that's in one of those teams.
All right. Well, we have the selection chair on Sunday night?
Yes, we do.
Do we have any coaches on besides Jay Wright?
At this point, not yet.
Who Jay Wright would come on if we were doing a show from the moon?
That's right.
He'd get a Dixie cup.
Jay would come on if he was coming to the NIT.
I mean, Jay is Steve's guy. That is, in a pinch, if Steve had to have a guest, if Steve was auditioning
That's right.
at KABC in LA, and I gave him 2 hours, and he had to get a guest on and make it sound good and have a well-rounded program, any guest in America that he could get on, the guy that he'd call would be Jay Wright.
Yeah, I don't know about KABC in LA. Maybe.
Would you call it? But he is the guy, though. A guy of stature who we can get
Jay's
on.
a great guy.
Jay is the guy that Steve can get on. My guy in that spot, I have so many.
Well, this is Christopher Russo.
How about Rob Manfred?
I think that probably beats Jay Wright.
How about Gary? I could get Bettman if I was in a hockey town.
Well, that's for next week's or next month's
Somebody
program.
told me that the NHL has put out a press release that we're going to do the show at the NHL store. That's what Bill said. Is that true?
Yeah, I don't know if they've done that yet, but they're in the process. Look at Pitt. Only 7 down to Notre Dame.
There you go. Kevin
Winless in the conference.
Well, what do you do with that Stallings? He's been here 2 years, but they're 0-18. You keep him or do you let him go? That's a tough call.
I have to take a look at his contract. I guess he needs another year, but I mean, here's the problem.
They have a young? Does he have young talent?
I don't know.
Or
much.
Are these kids seniors?
I don't
even know.
I don't know much. I have no idea, to be honest with you. But what I do know is, in that conference to recruit there, it can't be easy. I mean, I know that they've had some decent years recently. Jamie Dixon was there, but
tricky stuff. Now. So you ready for the college? You're looking forward to the college basketball right now.
Absolutely. Today you got 5 automatic bids tonight.
You're into those games. Wagner's playing tonight. I know BYU. That's not automatic, right? Tonight?
No, it is.
Oh, it is. BYU
West
against
Coast Conference. Yeah, they beat St. Mary's last night.
They
could steal a bid from somebody because they won't get in.
Well, you're assuming that they're going to take St. Mary's and Gonzaga no matter what?
Yes, okay. 100%.
So BYU could steal a bid. Keep an eye on it.
Yeah, that's one where people will be worried.
All right. Anything else? Nebraska going to make it?
It's a long shot right now. I mean,
Penn State going to make it?
I think they're in the same boat,
Split in the regular season. Penn State beat Ohio State 3 times.
Yeah, they just, as I told you, Nebraska, the one thing they're going to look back on with regret is that they had Kansas beat at home and they lost in the last second. They had them up, I think, by double digits. If they won that game, they probably would be in, unfortunately.
100%.
Because they don't really have that signature win. They blew out Michigan at home. That's outside of that, nothing. And Penn State, they did beat Ohio State 3 times, which is great.
But they had
some other chances where they got hurt.
You think that we're going to be hurt here by TBS with this event? I think they might be. I've said that.
Yeah, look, I mean,
they got their money. They don't care, but the ratings are not going to be. If you care about ratings,
Well, they're trying to fiddle with some things. I didn't realize they were having a studio audience, what Seth told me earlier today.
Yeah, I read that.
Which I was unaware of. And, now they're going to reveal the 68 teams.
No, we talked about it. Yep.
So
I don't like that either.
I don't either. That really bothers me. Because they take the suspense away right away. Why would you do that?
To me, it's too faceted. The brackets are fun, too. But I get it. I'm looking forward to the tournament. And Bob Wenzel, is he in the house?
He's all set. We've secured his travel scenario.
And you're going to Vegas
I'm going to Vegas a week from tonight.
A week from tonight, you're flying to Vegas for the week.
Patrick Moa.
Yeah, you're 15. And he's doing, somebody tell me that he's going to get social.
Yes, the Angels called Bill today. Mike Social, we're going to get him.
That's pretty damn good. Give him credit.
Bill's done a nice job.
I'll tell you right now, Bill is so good at everything he touches.
And Patrick and Dustin have been terrific.
Bill has been phenomenal. What a job by Billy C. Thank God we have him here at the company.
God.
Anything do we need to know about? Georgia Tech lost to BC, fine. Notre Dame's up 6 with a minute and a half to go. They have the ball.
Which is a little too precarious right now against a bad team.
Notre Dame needs to win a lot of games if they want to make the NCAA.
Well, a lot of people seem to think if they get 2 here, they might get in because of the whole Bonzi Cook. It's very interesting to see.
He's been out. Correct.
Because they're a very good team with him. That was one good win that Indiana had this year when he was healthy. They actually beat them.
All right, what else you got? Now it's down 61-58.
You might have to go to the live play-by-play here.
Do we have the opportunity to? I'll kill 10 minutes. Go ahead.
Sorry, that's a violation of rules. It's an 8-0 Pitt run.
Anything else I need to know about?
Le'Veon Bell, got the franchise tag.
Right, and you may continue.
The Bears assigned their transition tag to Kyle Fuller.
And it's Pittsburgh ball right now. Notre Dame just had a turnover.
Oh, my goodness. Can you imagine if they lose this game?
There you go. Anything else I need to know about?
It's going to be a quick stay in Brooklyn. The Patriots exercised Kenny Britt's option. Do you care?
No, but that's interesting.
5 automatic bids. The Rockets going for 16 in a row tonight, taking on Oklahoma City.
I love Van Gundy. The fact that he thinks they're better than Golden State. Come on, please, Jeff. Huh? I know that you want to. Come on, that's not fair.
It is too bad that they have to, that they can't meet in the finals because I think the Rockets are pretty good this year.
Well, that's the theme. The problem with the Rockets, Steve, don't you fall in love with them yet.
No, I'm not falling in love with them.
They never do anything in the postseason.
I'm aware.
The D'Antoni system does not work in postseason.
Look, let's see if they can get some stops, et cetera, et cetera.
And Harden has spit the bit in the postseason.
We saw last year. It was a prime example.
He spit the bit.
Yeah, I'm one of those. I'm going to hold off before I'm a believer with them. No question.
No, I tell you, the Western Conference.
But if they get the home court, it does add a little interesting wrinkle.
Golden State's going to.
No, I don't think they're going to lose, but it makes it a little more challenging. Let's say, All
right, let's give you the play-by-play here in the next. It's Pitt ball, minute 18 to go. They are 0-18 in the league. They've won 8 games, and they have been horrendous. This is a team that lost to Montana. They have had a rough year. And we'll see if Pitt can tie. Would you go for 3 here, Steve, to tie the game?
I'd get for the open shot, for sure.
So you would look for 3?
Absolutely. What do you have to lose?
All right, so you go for the 3 to get the game tied.
Make them nervous.
Well, you get a basket, you make them nervous too.
What I said was, whatever open shot you have. So if you got the 3, take it.
So you wouldn't look for they inbound the ball after the ball got knocked out. About 112, and Pitt's going to play catch around the top of the key. And let's see, Notre Dame in a man-to-man. A long 3 for the tie is no good. And Notre Dame gets the rebound. So we'll take a timeout. Notre Dame ball and a foul. 61-58 Irish. They have the pumpkin at the stripe. We continue. Mad Dog